In a county hospital ward, the beds don't stay empty long. The city keeps filling them. You barely have time to learn the name of the person who just left before the next one arrives, wheeled in through that door with their particular story and their particular damage and their particular expression of a person who did not see this coming. Mike didn't see it coming. He was 18 years old, which in that ward made him practically Ronaldo's contemporary. And like Ronaldo, he had the specific quality of a kid who was doing everything approximately right. This was West Los Angeles in the late 70s, when the 405 freeway still moved like a freeway rather than the world's longest parking structure, and when the city had a different texture, looser, sunnier, less defended. Mike was working as a courier for a law firm, which is the kind of job an 18-year-old takes when he is trying to manage school and a girlfriend in the general expensive business of being alive in Los Angeles. He drove a Honda Civic, modest, reliable, entirely adequate for the work. He was not a kid looking for trouble. He was a kid on a freeway with a parcel to deliver and the radio up and the particular contentment of a young man who has, at least for this afternoon, all the pieces of his life arranged in a satisfactory order. He had just left the law firm's office in West L.A. and was heading through the pass to a courtroom in Northridge. The sun was doing what the Southern California sun does in that era, generously, indiscriminately making everything look better than it might otherwise deserve to look. Traffic was manageable, the kind of afternoon that exists to make you feel good about where you live. The red F-150 appeared in the neighboring lane. It was old, the truck, aged and weathered in the specific way of vehicles whose owners have not invested sentiment in their maintenance. 3 occupants, moving at highway speed, 65 or better. For a moment nothing registered as unusual. Then an arm came out of the passenger window holding a beer extended into the slipstream, hovering there for a theatrical moment before releasing it. The bottle missed Mike's windshield by the kind of margin that is not actually comforting, and he looked over to identify who had just done this thing. What he saw was a collection of middle fingers attached to arms covered in tattoos. This matters as context, because in the late 70s, tattoos were not the democratic personal expression they would later become. Inked skin in that era meant something specific, Marines mostly, or men who had spent time in institutions that tattooed their experience onto you whether you requested it or not. These were not Marines. He tried to change lanes. They blocked him. He tried again. They blocked him again. The Honda Civic, whose virtues were reliability and economy and emphatically not performance, had no mechanical argument to make against a V6 F-150 driven by men who had decided this was how they were spending their afternoon. Mike knew the route. He knew that once past Wilshire, the freeway offered nothing until sunset. No exits, no escape routes, no options. He was in a corridor with these men, and they knew it too, which appeared to please them considerably. Then the situation, which had already cleared every reasonable bar for unacceptable, escalated. The truck had a window connecting the cab to the bed. One of the passengers climbed through it and positioned himself in the truck bed, from which vantage point he began throwing things. Buckets, as it turned out, which is a specific choice that suggests a level of premeditation that makes the whole enterprise more disturbing rather than less. He accompanied this activity with obscene gestures and, in what I can only describe as an editorial decision, exposed his bare backside to the California afternoon and to Mike specifically. Somehow, through skill or traffic or the specific mercy that occasionally visits people who need it, Mike got ahead of them, not far ahead. They were immediately behind him, tailgating with the focused aggression of men who had committed to this and were not going to be discouraged by lane changes or reason. He made his move, swerved across 3 lanes with the kind of decision-making that happens below conscious thought, and took the Ventura Boulevard exit, downhill, into surface streets, into traffic that he hoped would swallow him and lose the truck behind him. He exhaled. He checked the mirror. The red F-150 was coming down the hill. Now I want to pause here, because there is something important about this moment that I have thought about many times since Mike told me what happened next. He remembered that he usually kept a small baseball bat behind his seat. The previous day he had washed the car, moved the bat, and in the morning Rush had forgotten to put it back. He reached behind the seat anyway, the way a person reaches for something they need badly enough that hope briefly overrides knowledge. Nothing there. The truck came up behind him, rear-ending his car. The doors opened, and what followed in the middle of a Van Nuys surface street, in broad afternoon light, in front of witnesses who sat frozen in their cars with the paralysis that descends on ordinary people confronted by extraordinary violence. This was a beating of such sustained and deliberate cruelty that I find myself, even now, measuring my words carefully. The man from the truck bed came down off the roof. He had apparently ridden it down the hill, which tells you everything you need to know about the state of his judgment and his relationship with his own safety. The other two came out of the cab. They broke the window and pulled Mike out of the car the way you get something out of a container you don't care about. One of them held him. The others took turns. Body shots first. Stomach, ribs, the systematic work of men who knew the difference between hurting someone quickly and hurting someone thoroughly, then the face, his chin, his eye, which closed and darkened with the efficiency of traumatized tissue doing what traumatized tissue does. Then someone produced a tire iron, which converted the encounter from a beating into something that required a different vocabulary entirely. A full swing across his ribs. Another that found his hand and broke it with a sound he would not describe to me in detail but would not forget. And then, and I include this not for shock but because it happened and because the kind of cruelty that includes this particular addition tells you something true and important about the men who committed it. One of them urinated on him. Standing over a broken 18-year-old boy on a Los Angeles street in the middle of the afternoon, while his companions laughed. The witnesses watched. I do not say this to condemn them because I have thought about what I would have done standing on that sidewalk without a phone, without a weapon, watching three men with tire irons work on a kid in a Honda Civic, and I cannot answer that question with the confidence I would like to have about myself. Fear is not cowardice, fear is biology. One person ran to the gas station across the street and called the police and an ambulance, and that person, whose name nobody recorded, may have saved Mike's life. This was before cell phones. There was no video, no immediate digital record of three men dismantling a teenager on a public street. The event existed only in the memories of the people who witnessed it, and in the body of the boy they left on the pavement and in the ward where he eventually arrived. Broken ribs, broken hand, blackened eye, and the particular internal damage that doesn't show up on x-rays but doesn't heal as cleanly as bone. The police came eventually and took a report with the energy of men processing a document rather than a crime. Mike had no health insurance, which in the late 70s meant exactly what it means now, that the county absorbs you and you end up in a ward with a former war hero and a man in construction scaffolding, and a biker who does chin-ups every 15 minutes and yells a word I have already introduced you to. He was 18 years old. He had done nothing except be in the wrong lane at the wrong moment with the wrong people, which is a thing that can happen to anyone, on any freeway, on any afternoon in any city in America, and which happened to Mike on a sunny day in West Los Angeles when the traffic was light and the radio was up and everything for one brief and irretrievable moment had felt exactly like it was supposed to feel. I think about him sometimes. I think about the baseball bat behind the seat that wasn't there. They would have used it.